The knock on my door wasn't unusual, but the woman standing there, beaming like we were old friends, was. "Hey. Just wanted to stop by since we'll be living together soon," she chirped, like this was normal. I stared at her, my fingers gripping the doorframe. My husband's new girlfriend. At my house. Talking about moving in. This is a story about betrayal, control, and reclaiming what's mine. Before we get into the story, let us know where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe. You ever have that moment where you look back and realize everything was falling apart right in front of you, but at the time, you just didn't see it? Or maybe you did, but you didn't want to? That was me. For years, my life looked good from the outside. I had a steady job as a property manager, a cozy home, and a husband, Derek, who everyone thought was charming. And for a long time, I believed that too. We had inside jokes, routines, little things that made it feel like we were a team. I thought we were solid. Sure, we had our disagreements, what couple doesn't? But nothing serious. Nothing that made me think he'd leave. But now when I look back, I see it. The signs. It started small. Derek would work late, more than usual. At first, I didn't question it. I work late sometimes too. But then, he started acting weird with his phone. Turning it face down. Keeping it in his pocket at home when he used to leave it charging in the kitchen. One night, I grabbed his phone by mistake, thinking it was mine. We had the same model, and I wasn't even snooping. But the way he snatched it out of my hand? That was new. "Derek," I said, half laughing, half confused. "Relax. I wasn't gonna go through it." "It's just private," he said, stuffing it into his pocket. "Private? Since when?" A week later, I found a receipt in his car for a steakhouse we'd never been to. 2 entrees. A bottle of wine. I stared at it for a long time, telling myself there had to be an explanation. A work dinner. A friend. I almost threw it away, but instead, I folded it and kept it in my purse. Then came the perfume. A sweet, floral scent in his car, something I'd never worn in my life. I leaned into the passenger seat, sniffing. It was on the seatbelt. Strong. I asked him about it that night. "Hey, who was in your car?" He barely looked up from his laptop. "What?" "Your car smells like perfume." He blinked at me like I was crazy. "I gave a coworker a ride." "What coworker?" He sighed. "Lauren, come on. I don't remember. It was last week." I should have pushed harder. Should have said something. But instead, I let it drop, even though my gut was screaming at me that something wasn't right. And then just like that, he told me he was leaving. It was a random Tuesday night. I'd made pasta, and we were sitting at the table, barely talking. Lately, we didn't have much to say to each other. I was pretending everything was fine, and he, well, I didn't know what he was thinking anymore. Then, in the middle of twirling his fork, he said it. Just like that. "I think we should separate." I blinked, thinking I misheard him. "What?" He looked me straight in the eye. "I want out, Lauren. I think it's time." I swear, it felt like the floor tilted. "What, why?" He just sighed, like he was tired. "We're not happy. You know that." I felt my throat tighten. "So that's it? You just decided?" "I didn't just decide." His voice was calm. Too calm. Like he had been planning this for a while. "We've been drifting apart. I think we both know it." I shook my head, my hands gripping the table. "So what? You just want to give up? Not even try?" He pushed his plate away, untouched. "Lauren, I don't love you anymore." It hit me like a slap. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. And then he stood up, like this was just another conversation. "I'm gonna stay at a hotel for a bit while I figure things out." That was it. No emotion. No regret. Just a decision he had already made, while I sat there trying to catch up. I don't even remember what I said after that. Probably something pathetic. Something like, "Why? How?" But he didn't give me anything more. He packed a bag and left that night. No long discussion, no big fight. Just a quiet exit, like he had been waiting for the right moment to say it. And the worst part? He looked relieved. Like he was finally free. I sat in the quiet house, staring at his half-eaten plate of food, my hands shaking. Something was wrong. So wrong. But I wasn't ready to see it yet. The first few days after Derek left felt like a fog. I still woke up at the usual time, made my morning coffee, and sat at the kitchen table, except now, his seat was empty. His absence was loud. It was in the way the house stayed exactly how I left it, in the untouched side of the bed, in the lack of his usual background noise. At first, I kept expecting him to come back. Maybe he just needed space. Maybe he'd wake up and realize he'd made a mistake. But then, reality started creeping in. His toothbrush disappeared from the bathroom. His shirts, the ones that used to crowd our shared closet, were gone. And that's when I knew. He wasn't coming back. I told myself I'd be okay. That I could be okay. The house was mine, after all. My name was on the mortgage. I had a job. I had friends. I could rebuild. But then, the weird things started happening. It started with the car. The first time, I was coming back from the grocery store when I saw it, his car, parked a little ways down the street. Not directly in front of the house, but close enough. My heart thumped. Was he here? I stood in the driveway, groceries still in my hands, scanning the street. But there was no sign of him. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe it wasn't even his car. Maybe it was just one that looked like his. But then I saw it again. And again. Sometimes parked a few houses down, sometimes across the street. Never for long, but always there. I wanted to believe it was a coincidence. But deep down, I knew better. Then, there was the neighbor. One afternoon, I was out front pulling weeds when Mrs. Torres, my neighbor from 2 doors down, called out. "Lauren, sweetie, how you been?" I wiped my hands on my jeans and forced a smile. "I'm okay. Just trying to keep busy." She tilted her head, concern in her eyes. "I ran into Derek the other day." My stomach dropped. Oh. He was with someone. Young girl, pretty thing. They were coming out of that little cafe on Main Street. I swallowed hard. Did he see you?" She nodded. "Oh yes." I said hello. He seemed happy. Happy. That word clanged in my chest like a dull bell. I managed to smile, to nod, to pretend like it didn't cut me to hear that. But the moment I was inside, I sank onto the couch, my pulse hammering. A young girl. Pretty. I didn't want to put a name to her. Didn't want to think about it. But that night, when I was lying awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't stop picturing them. Was it her perfume I had smelled in his car? Had he been with her all along? Was she the reason he left so suddenly, so calmly? I clenched the blankets in my fists, anger bubbling beneath my skin. I wanted to tell myself that none of it mattered. That whatever he was doing now wasn't my business. But then, he started mentioning the house. At first, it was just little comments. A text, out of nowhere, "Are you sure you want to keep the house?" A casual remark when he came by to grab the rest of his things. "This place is a lot for one person." Then one day he called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Lauren," he said, his voice smooth, like we were old friends. "I've been thinking. You really don't have to stay in that house, you know." I sat up, gripping the phone. "What's that supposed to mean?" "I mean, maybe it's time for you to move on." Something in the way he said it made my stomach twist. I laughed dryly. "Move on? Derek, I live here." I know, he said too quickly. "But it's a lot of space. Maybe selling would be best." I gritted my teeth. "For who?" A pause. Just a second too long. Then, "For you." Liar. I didn't know what he was up to, but I knew this wasn't about me. And I had a bad feeling I was about to find out exactly what he had planned. I should have trusted my instincts. From the moment Derek started bringing up the house, something felt off. His voice, his wording, the way he framed it like he was doing me a favor. But I didn't push it, not yet. I wanted to believe that maybe this was just his way of moving on. Maybe he thought I'd be happier somewhere else. I wanted to believe that. Until the night he showed up at my door. It was a Friday evening. I had just gotten home from work, exhausted, hair pulled into a messy bun, wearing an oversized hoodie and leggings, exactly not the way you want to look when facing your ex. I had barely kicked off my shoes when the doorbell rang. I frowned. No one ever dropped by unannounced. When I opened the door, there he was. Derek. Standing on my porch, hands in his pockets like he belonged there. And he was smiling. "Hey, Lauren." I blinked. "What are you doing here?" He let out a short laugh, like this was just some casual, friendly visit. "Thought we should talk." I crossed my arms. "About what?" Then he said it. Just like that. "I'm moving in." I actually laughed. Because there was no way he meant here. "What?" His smile didn't falter. "I think it makes sense." I shook my head, trying to process the words. "You think, Derek, this is my house?" "Our house," he corrected, tilting his head. I felt my breath catch in my throat. "Excuse me." He pulled something from his pocket. "Papers. Official looking." "Technically, I still have a legal right to the house," he said, flipping through the pages. "You remember refinancing last year?" I did. I remembered signing papers, barely skimming through them because he had handled everything. I felt my stomach tighten. "So," he continued, completely at ease, "since I need a place to stay, and we both own it, I figure we can make this work." I couldn't speak. I literally could not form words. He looked past me into the house, like he was already picturing himself there. "Don't think of it as a bad thing. We can figure out a way to." I slammed the door in his face. I heard him sigh from the other side. Heard him mutter something under his breath. Then he left. I stood frozen, heart pounding, staring at the closed door like it might burst open again. I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I barely slept that night. I kept replaying the conversation over and over. The smug look on Derek's face, the way he stood there so sure of himself, like I was just going to roll over and let this happen. But the worst part? He wasn't bluffing. By morning, I was digging through every piece of paperwork I could find. Mortgage documents, old emails, anything that could tell me what exactly I had signed when we refinanced. And there it was. My name was still on the house. But so was his. And that meant legally, he had rights to it. I felt sick. I needed help. A legal nightmare. I took the papers to a lawyer, my lawyer, not his. I sat in a small cluttered office while she skimmed through the documents, her expression unreadable. After a long silence, she set them down and laced her fingers together. "Well," she said, "he's not entirely wrong." My stomach twisted. "You're kidding." She shook her head. "Legally, you both own the house. If he wants to live there, it's complicated." "Complicated how?" She sighed. "You can fight it, of course. But it won't be quick. Or easy. You'd need to buy out his share, prove he abandoned the property, or negotiate some kind of settlement." I exhaled slowly, trying to keep my hands from shaking. "How long would that take?" She hesitated. "Months. Maybe longer." I clenched my jaw. I didn't have months. Because I knew Derek. And I knew he wasn't going to wait. Unwanted guests. At first, nothing happened. No calls. No texts. No more unannounced visits. For about a week, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, he had changed his mind. Then, little things started appearing. A black coffee mug in the kitchen. One I never bought. A bottle of men's body wash in the shower. And the worst part? A pair of pink flip-flops by the front door. Small. Definitely not mine. My hands curled into fists. I stormed outside, scanning the street. No car. No sign of Derek. But I knew what this meant. They were already treating the house like theirs. I grabbed the flip-flops and threw them straight into the trash. If they thought they were just going to move in bit by bit, they were in for a rude awakening. Face to face with Vanessa. The next morning, I saw her. Vanessa. Standing at the end of the driveway, just watching the house. My stomach twisted, but I forced myself to stay calm. I walked outside, arms crossed. "Something you need?" She smiled. "Oh, just dropping something off for Derek." I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. Derek doesn't live here, I said. She tilted her head. Not yet. My skin prickled. She looked so comfortable, like she belonged here. Like she had won. And that's when I realized, this wasn't just Derek's plan. It was theirs. This wasn't just about the house. It was about pushing me out. I tightened my jaw. I wasn't going anywhere. I knew it was coming. The moment I saw Vanessa standing at the end of my driveway, wearing that smug little smile, I knew she and Derek weren't done. They weren't just pushing boundaries anymore. They were about to kick the door down. And I wasn't going to let them. The final straw. The next few days felt like a slow-moving car crash. Vanessa wasn't just around, she was everywhere. One morning, I walked outside to get the mail and found her chatting with my neighbor, laughing like she had always lived here. Another time, I came home late and saw her inside my garage, standing next to Derek's old toolbox. Looking for something? I asked, voice ice cold. She jumped, then smiled like she hadn't just been caught trespassing. Oh. Derek said I could grab a few things. I stared at her. He doesn't live here. She just shrugged. Not yet. My blood boiled. But I bit my tongue. Because I had a plan. The knock that changed everything. It happened on a Saturday. A loud, confident knock. I already knew who it was. I knew before I even opened the door. Vanessa stood there, grinning like a cat who had just swallowed a bird. Hey, she chirped. Just wanted to stop by since we'll be living together soon. I gripped the doorframe so tightly my knuckles ached. Behind her, Derek leaned against his car, arms crossed, looking way too pleased with himself. I felt a wave of pure rage. But I didn't let it show. I forced a smile. That's funny, I said. Because I just had a very interesting chat with my lawyer. Her smile faltered. Just a little. I turned my gaze to Derek. Turns out, you do have rights to the house. But so do I. He smirked. Exactly. I raised an eyebrow. And that means I can legally do whatever I want to my property. His smirk twitched. Lauren. Which is why, I interrupted, pulling out a thick stack of papers, I filed a restraining order against you both. Vanessa's smile vanished. I let the words sink in. You see, I continued, voice steady, since I've been living here alone for months, and since you both have been harassing me, I had plenty of proof that your presence here is threatening my safety. Derek straightened. That's ridiculous. Oh. I tilted my head. Because legally, the judge didn't think so. I flipped to the last page and pointed to the signature. Effective immediately, neither of you are allowed within 500 feet of this house. Vanessa's jaw clenched. Derek ran a hand through his hair, looking like he was about to argue. So I smiled. And slammed the door in their faces. Reclaiming what's mine. I stood there for a moment, heart hammering. I half expected them to start yelling. To fight. But after a long, tense silence, I heard them leave. I watched from the window as Derek got into his car, slamming the door harder than necessary. Vanessa stood there for a second longer, seething. Then, finally, she stormed after him. As they drove away, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. No more coffee mugs that weren't mine. No more flip-flops by the door. No more feeling like a stranger in my own home. This house? It was mine again. And no one was taking it from me.